Good morning, everybody. So, I'm not sure what I'm going to do today because I did not get those parts in the mail yet. I checked my email. Dude, I'm jumping right into this, aren't I? So we're on a VFR build here. Honda VFR 800. It's going to be, well, it's coming along. I'm hoping it's going to be awesome. At the moment, we're just trying to get the engine running. That is the peak we're headed towards right now, is to get the actual engine running. We're very close. What I'm waiting on is parts for our fuel tank to show up. Those have not shown up. I may have made a mistake by ordering them from the cheapest place online, which I order parts from all the time. But the problem is that the downside is that they take forever to ship them. I checked my email the other day and I have not even got a confirmation that it's been shipped, and I ordered those 10 days ago. So I don't know what's going on over there. Sometimes I get them quicker than I think, and other times it takes forever. So I don't know what goes on at that place. It is basically just a dealer that sells stuff online as well as in their store, you know. So yeah, I may have to call them today and be like, where are my parts? I need them. Sometimes they show up without them sending me any sort of shipping information. And sometimes I do get the shipping number. It's just random. So today on this VFR, let's take a look around and see, without those parts, what can we do? So we've got stuff. So here's our little air filter elements. I'm still letting this dry. I might want to just dig through this box and see what we have and what we don't have, you know? All these plastics are gonna go away eventually. This guy, I don't know if I can salvage anything off of that. Possibly. Oh, this is like a heat shield thing. Probably gonna be using that again, maybe, I don't know. We've got our little foot pegs here, side controls. These are definitely helpful to have. All right, so that's not helpful. There's not much we can do in there. So here's a question for you. I'm thinking about, like, ultimately trying to slim stuff down up here, and I don't know if that's worthwhile or not, but I like the idea of removing like the controls here. So this, because all we have is the engine start, and then the kill switch on this side of the bike. I could easily relocate those somewhere else on the bike and slim this up, but then my problem is that this part also contains the throttle housing for the cables and everything. I know on Choppers you can buy solutions for that have a little cable housing thing with the throttle tube and everything in it. They're much more simplified. I know that's an option, and the ones I've seen are only single cable. I kind of like to keep the double cable on this. I don't know why, but I would like to. I'm curious if there's any other solutions. Anybody think this is worthwhile? I'm not sure ultimately if it makes a huge difference, because I'm still going to have a reservoir of some kind up here. I'm not sure if it will be this one or if I will have a different one, an aftermarket one or what. I'm not sure if this one will be usable or what. So maybe, I don't know, should we take this thing apart today? And we could start playing with other stuff today and seeing what's viable or not. I guess that's an option. All right, so while we're waiting for our parts, I guess I'm going to start playing around up here. This just seems like it'd be fun to do today. I'm gonna put the ignition back in its spot here. Take a couple things apart, whatever. I'm gonna take this dash off for a second, move that out of the way. It's got like one bolt holding it on at the moment. All the other mounting points are broken on this dash. There should be 3 mounting points, and 2 of them are broken. That's a crazy. This is such a crazy looking dash in retrospect. Like, looking at this now, like, look at the size. This is called this sort of computer board thing. They call them a breadboard, and look at how big that is. Like, the spacing on all of that it just seems obscene, absurd, or whatever at this point. Like, this seems comically too big. Like, excessively larger than it needs to be. We're not going to be using that dash. I mean, there is like a cool, like, classical aspect to this dash with the analog tack and speedo and everything on there. Like that is kind of cool. There's sort of a historical aspect to it that is neat, but it's broken and I'm inclined to use something a lot smaller. So I want to get in here and remove this little black plastic thing. I actually melted that when I was heating stuff up with a heat gun, and so we're going to remove that and not use it, basically. It's got a couple screws on the bottom there. I'm not sure if we've got Loctite or anything on those, how hard those would be to get out. But let's see if we can find out, huh? Yeah, they're kind of on there. So I'm gonna bust out my, where is it? I think it's up here. Out my little impact wrench. This guy. Let's see if we can get it with that. All right, let's see if we can fit everything in here. Well, it's loose now. All right, let's see if I can even reach the other one. I cannot reach it. Look at this thing. This is like a big freaking thing on here, isn't it? Yeah, like this whole sort of frame system, network, whatever, for the front dash and everything. And look at that. Look at how heavy duty all that stuff is. Like that's serious steel going on up here. Interesting. So I'm gonna take that off at the moment, or at least loosen it up right here and remove it so that I can get in here with that impact and get this other screw. These have little like nylock bolts on the, or nylock nuts on the end. Now we should be able to get in here and get this other screw. Yeah, now it's loose. And they did have red Loctite on them. That's why I need the impact screwdriver there. All right, so that was all so that I could come back in here. And I want to put the ignition back where it's supposed to live there. Now I'm just looking at this jangle of wires, this mess here, and seeing if I want to do anything different at this point. I'm not sure. I guess not at this point, right? We need to do some serious thinking about this, about what is going on with this dash and how I'm gonna replace all this stuff. So yeah, at the moment, I just want to stick this guy back on here. So I'm going to remove these bolts that I have conveniently left for me to find again when I need them. Stick this guy back on. What am I even working with here? Hold on. These guys, they're Torx bits, got it. Yeah, the little star pattern thing is a Torx bit. I have got a Torx bit set here. This guy right here, full of little Torx bits. So, gotta find the right one here and we'll be in business. And typically on these you would put red Loctite on them. It's an anti-theft thing, really. It makes it harder for people to get these things off. That's also why they have that Torx bit on there, because that is a more elite sort of socket type, or whatever you want, whatever you call it, that most people don't have. I have them because I'm working on these bikes all the time, but most people don't have those, and so your average thief maybe doesn't have that stuff. I don't know, but your average thief is probably a kid, right? So they're not that organized. I need a longer one here. I think I've got that. I've got longer ones too. Look at that. I am very prepared. All right, key is back in place. This is all temporary stuff. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do on this front end exactly. At some point we need to take the stanchion tubes and all that stuff off of here and take that apart, see how straight these are and how bent they are, more likely. I can't imagine they're straight. That would be an absolute miracle, I think. I'm gonna put this little like cow horn thing on the back on here for now. Because what else am I gonna do with it, you know? I'm just gonna throw one bolt on there just to hold it in place. I'm gonna stick this guy back up here as well. Here, actually, I'm just gonna set it right there because, and then I actually need to figure out what this is and where that goes. It seems like it could be important. It also might just be the temperature gauge is what I'm thinking. Does this thing have a temperature on it? All right, so yeah, this is like an ambient air temperature sensor. So there should be a reading on the dash, I would think at the least, that tells you what the temperature outside is. And that's what this guy does. So I'm gonna label that so we don't forget it in the future at some point. Yeah, so if I go to our dash here, ignore this turn signal. I cannot turn it off. The switch is just buggered, man. And we hit the temp switch right here. It will switch and tell me it is 66 degrees in this garage right now. All right, so I'm also looking at the front here. We've got this bank angle sensor. This is something I want to eliminate at some point. And this is a big, bulky bank angle sensor. I'm sure that it was the best the technology could provide at that point in time, but I know the one on my Grom and the one on my CB500, which are newer bikes, is much smaller than this. And I tried to bypass the one on the Grom, like I used some resistors and stuff to try and trick the computer to thinking that the bank angle sensor was there when it wasn't, and I could not make that work. So what I'm thinking now is that I could update this with like a newer, smaller version off a newer bike. I'm not sure if that will work or not. I need to look. Like, so this is like a 3-wire connection there, and I have to look and sort of at newer ones to see if they even have the same number of wires and then go from there. But that's something I'm thinking about at the moment. I need to do research on that. So at the moment, I'm just sort of staring at the bike, trying to figure out what I want to do next on it, because I really want to have like this whole phased build thing where I have the engine, we verify that the engine is viable, and that doesn't count until it actually like starts and runs. Once we verify the engine running, my next step would be to sort of go to the suspension and make sure, I mean, we're just taking these little phase steps to get it onto the road so that we can get to the point where we can like road test it, and then we can come back and strip it down and try and start customizing it, right? So to get it to the road test part, we have to do the suspension next to make sure it will even go down the road, right? So the front, obviously, we've got to test out a bunch of stuff on the front. The rear, we've got to test out. I mean, I'm not sure if either ends of the bike will work. This bike is in really rough shape, dude. The more I look at it, the more I'm like, what was I thinking? Because I'm gonna have to replace so much stuff on this in theory. And a lot of it is not due to the fact that it was wrecked. I mean, that's one aspect of it, but it's even more so due to the fact that it sat for so long, like outside. Like that just killed it, man. Like if it was just in a wreck, like I could salvage a lot more stuff on here and a lot more stuff would be still usable. But the fact that it sat outside, everything is so corroded, man. Like you gotta replace so much stuff on it now because of that. Those two things, I would not recommend buying a bike that was in that condition under these circumstances. It's kind of dumb. It's kind of dumb, man. But we're gonna try and do what we can, and I'm not even sure that I will end up using the bike in its current condition. It's possible in a crazy world that we use this engine for a completely different purpose, you know, like maybe we make a chopper out of this engine. I don't know, dude. That's a theoretical parallel universe that we could live in, right? But I don't know. And so at this point, I just want to get it running and go from there. I really have some doubts about the suspension. And on the front, I'm really not sure what I want to do on the front. I've been thinking about this for months and I still have no idea in terms of, I actually want to go full custom on it, but I would first like to have the stock suspension on it, ride it with that, and then go full custom front suspension on it and do something wild. But I don't want to spend a shit ton of money trying to get the stock suspension back just so I can only use it temporarily. So that's my dilemma. I'm doing a lot of thinking at the moment, staring at this thing, and not sure what I want to do today. We may have to wait on some stuff. I also really don't like how cluttered this stock brake system is on the front here. Because it has a linked brake system where brake fluid from the front has to travel to the back of the bike as well, there is some excessive tubing going on up front here, and like it's not just tubing. We have this sort of valve system thing like right here, and this is repeated on the other side of the bike, and some of these things are, and one of these is so that it can go, it has an extra line that runs to the back of the bike. I would like to slim that down. I really don't like how bulky that is. And then each caliper has 2 lines running to it. I would really like to eliminate that. These probably would need to be rebuilt anyways, and so these calipers, I mean, in all likelihood are junk. I'd probably be better off if I just did something completely different up here. So yeah, I can see that these stanchion tubes, as you would guess, are bent, but I can see with my naked eye, like that one on the far side there it sort of comes down and sort of moves out like that. And then this one here, I think I could see the bend. I mean, they typically bend like right here. Like this is a really strong part, this lower clamp here, and they typically bend like right there, you know, one way or another. And so I'm pretty sure this one comes down and bends just ever so slightly that way. So I'm pretty sure both of those are, and typically they are. And we have a bike that's been in an accident, these stanchion tubes are almost always bent. The clamps are probably fine, the upper and lower clamp, but they could be bent too. I mean, this could possibly be twisted. I mean, it's less likely. Usually this lower sort of shock part here, this is typically okay from my experience, but like you have to rebuild, you need new seals and all that stuff for the inside. So we're starting to add up some money here, and then the brake system, I probably have to, at the very least, have to rebuild these calipers. I have to do that, and then we need a new rim. The rim on this thing is like bent or cracked on the other side, and then all of these brake lines probably need to be replaced just because of their age and the condition. I'm starting to lean towards like full custom. I like the idea of doing the stock, experiencing the stock ride and knowing what that is like. But in terms of just time and money, like I feel like I should just go straight to full custom on this. And so that would involve, even full custom though, would involve like I'd be fabricating all these fork legs and stuff myself, but I still am gonna need calipers, I'm gonna need a rim, a wheel, brake rotors, all this stuff off an axle, all of that off a different bike. I'm just sort of thinking aloud here, and it involves a little bit of planning stuff out, and I'm not to that point yet with this bike because I need to verify this engine and then start planning stuff out. The rear suspension, we definitely are going to be using the stock swing arm. There's a lot of questions with the stock swing arm still, because this guy is the swing arm. I assume it's got to be straight, but in all likelihood it is. If it isn't, then I need a different swing arm. And if I'm getting a different swing arm, I can get one that comes with all of this stuff on it and just swap over the whole thing. If this one is good, then I do need to rebuild this rotor part in the back, because this one has got some issues. There's a couple parts, at least a couple parts on there that I can visually tell need to be replaced. And then if I was really professional, I would replace all the bearings and stuff in here probably, or at least the seals and stuff on there, and redo those bearings. So yeah, there's a lot of questions at this point for me to answer. So yeah, there may not be an episode tomorrow, or because there may not be an episode until I get the parts in to finish up this fuel pump and we can try to actually start the bike. We verified the other day that the swing arm axle is no good, or it's slightly bent, and I'm gonna order another used one, and hope that that one is not bent. I could have this one straightened, but I can get the other axle for 20 bucks, and I'm not gonna be able to have the other one straightened for less than 20 bucks. So I'm gonna go with that option and hope that it works. Need to think about ordering a rear wheel, getting another one of those as well, and now we're starting to spend some actual money. I'm still just trying to get to the point where I can actually just test ride it, and then once we test ride it, I need to like make it better. I need to actually rebuild a whole bunch of stuff. I need to rebuild that rear swing arm, that sort of junction where the wheel is in the back. There's a bunch of like big bearings and stuff that go in that rear wheel, and I've got to get in there and redo something. But it does function, I believe, to a point that I could at least drive it down the street and see and get a feel for what is wrong with it. Because once you drive it down the street, you're gonna be like, oh, that rear wheel is just wobbling, or what. You'll feel a lot of stuff. And I'm not talking fast. I'm just talking rolling. I've got some serious decisions to start making, and I don't really want to make them until that engine runs. All right, man. I'm gonna sign off for today. We might not see you tomorrow. We might not see you tomorrow. I will work on putting out some other videos, some shorts. I don't know how many of you guys are watching these shorts as well as these longer form videos. The shorts are just the ones, like as the name implies, that are they're less than a minute long, and they're typically in a different orientation, different format, video format. I'll work on putting some of those out for sure if I'm not doing this. So take a look, keep an eye out for that stuff.